There's a creek about a block from my house. It's a thin little tributary flowing from the Yellow River several miles away to a series of drainage pipes and eventually to a couple of man-made lakes. No one ever goes there. The lake, sure, but not the creek. Just me, every day after school. Today the sun is out. It's been rainy for about a week, and I've been afraid that these last days leading into summer were a sign of gloomy days to come. Always overcast and only an hour or two of direct sunlight a day. I can't be happy without the sun. Doesn't seem to be in my genes, as my mom says. I've always been a solitary kid. Only child with loving and understanding parents. My dad travels a lot, but my mom is always at home, and she lets me roam around pretty much where I please, as long as I'm back by sundown and as long as I don't go near the highway. At school, I don't have any close friends. I talk to other kids sometimes, sure, but they never come over to see me, and I'm never invited to the birthday parties. I'm just known as that quiet kid. Suits me fine. My real friends are the sticks I swing about like swords and the rocks I hurl like hand grenades and the leaves I crawl through like tunnels. Those drainage pipes near my house lead to other worlds. Great kingdoms of dwarves and elves, aliens and mermaids, races of beings so advanced and magical they make all the kids and grown-ups I know look like ants, scuttling around building ant piles and trying not to get stepped on. I never get stepped on, mostly because no one ever notices me. Today I jump off the bus and almost run to my front door. The sun is out and I want to savor it. I run into my mom's arms as she turns from the TV and notices me enter. "Hi! Bye!" I scream, immediately turning to run back outside. "Please don't come back as dirty as you did last time, okay?" she pleads, but she's smiling as she does it. "Okay, no dirty this time. No muss, no fuss," I say, waving as I shut the door. I hear her giggle as my feet hit the pavement. I'm off running immediately, out the garage, through the front yard, past my neighbor's yard and into the trees. That's when I realize that something is wrong. The woods have gone quiet. There are no birds chirping. No insects buzzing or squirrels scurrying. Aside from my footsteps, there's no sound. No, this would not be another gloomy day. There would be no dwarves or elves or hidden cities this time. This would be the day that would change my life and haunt my dreams forever. This would be the day that I found the corpse on the creek bed. The corpse that wasn't human. I suppose I should note that I don't stop despite the unearthly quiet. Unease hits me, but I keep going. My feet keep moving, and what I feel is less of a terror and a need to turn around and run back home, as it is a thrill at what might have caused the change in the atmosphere, a distinct and unalterable need to see with my own eyes what is different. I see it very quickly. There's a man lying on his side next to the creek. His leg is in the water. He has no shirt on, and his dirty blonde hair is matted and long. He also has wings. Great feathery appendages lay draped behind him, sprouting from his back like arms or legs or any other limb you or I might have. They're folded, though at an odd angle, with the left one lying slightly unfurled over the other, its feathers stretching just slightly back towards me. I'm smiling. I can feel it. I don't know why, really. I should be afraid, I guess. I should run home and tell my mom that there's a man with wings sleeping beside the creek and that she should call the police to come and wake him up. I think I know he's not really sleeping before I even touch him. I bound those last several yards without really thinking about it. I expect him to wake up and maybe yell at me for bothering him, and yet I don't expect that. I think I know the man with the wings is dead. When I'm finally standing over him, I see his face. It's half buried in the sand. His eyes are closed, so I don't know what color they are. His nose and his cheekbones are very sharp and pronounced. Elegant. My mom taught me that word. His body is muscled, yet kind of girly looking. His skin looks too soft, and there's no hair on it except for his eyebrows and the hair on his head. He's got some kind of diaper on. It looks like a diaper anyway. My mom says that some of the old people need diapers because they pee and crap themselves like little kids. Maybe this guy had that problem too. I kick him a little bit. My dirty sneaker leaves a print on his leg, the one that's in the water. The print disappears almost as soon as I leave it. I stare at the spot for a second, wondering if the water didn't lap over it and wash it off and I just didn't notice. Weird. That's when I decide to touch him. It wasn't so much of a conscious decision as it was just a thing my mind and body did without really thinking about it. Automatic reaction, I think I should say. I grabbed the wing, the one that was draped over the other. In an instant, less than that, my world changed. For when I touched that wing, I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't there and I wasn't me. What I saw was suddenly not the creek bed or the dead angel man or even my own hand. I see a computer screen. I see hands typing something. They're older hands. Bigger hands with little bits of hair on the back of them. The computer screen has words on it, but there's just enough of a reflection in it for me to see a face looking back at me. It's my face, and yet it isn't. It's longer, and the eyes look sadder. There are bags under them like he, I, is, am. Tired. He has a little bit of a beard. It isn't me, and yet it is. Then there was a voice in my ears. Not mine, or my mom's, or my dad's, or anyone I know. I think I know who it belongs to, though. You will change it, it says. The voice is soft yet commanding. It isn't suggesting something, it's stating something. Like when my mom says, "You're going to put that video game away and get in the bathtub right now." I will change it. And then I'm back, my hand still on the wing. It is my hand now. I pull it back, but not before taking in the sensation of the feather under my hand. It feels like a duck that had been playing on the beach. There's something grainy about it. I crouch there for a while. My mind tries to put some kind of definition on what just happened. Daydream? Hallucination? Premonuding? I'll have to ask Mom what that word is again. I stand up. The body doesn't move. Of course it doesn't. Whatever this man was, he isn't anymore. He's dead. Deceased. A corpse. Kicked the bucket. Blown the goat. Eating pie in the sky. Singing in the clouds with Jimmy Buffett, or whoever died in that plane crash with the big whopper. I'm still not scared. I'm just kind of amazed. Tomorrow I'll come back. Right now there's something I need to ask my mom. What do you think I'll look like when I'm old? I ask after she sits down at the kitchen table over her plate of pork chops and green beans. Sitting in front of me is a plate of the same, though I'll likely only pick at the green beans. She seems to think for a minute. She isn't caught off guard by the question, as many mothers would be. No, she's quite used to the kind of oddities that come out of my curious mouth. I think you'll be handsome, of course, but all moms say that, she started. Yeah, all moms do. She smiled and continues. I think those wise green eyes of yours will only get wiser. And I think you'll be skinny like you are now, but maybe a little more muscly. And your skin will probably be a bit darker and weathered because you spend so much time outside. What about my face hair? I ask. Your face hair? She seems bemused. Well, if you have any at all, it'll probably be a thin beard right on your jawline. Or maybe a small goatee. A what? She giggles. A goatee, silly. A pointy little beard that sits on your chin and makes you look devilish. I grin widely. You think I'm devilish? I know you're devilish, she says, shoveling a forkful of green beans into her mouth and winking at me. I follow her lead and start to eat, thinking about her description of future me. After a few moments of quiet contemplation and shoveling of food, I ask her the other important question. Have you ever had a premonition? She stops in mid-chew. I can see the confusion in her eyes. What's it? I struggle, realizing I have the word wrong. Oh, a premonition, she exclaims, mouthful of pork chop. Yeah, premonition, I say, sounding out the syllables so I won't forget. She sits back, now looking confused again. Why would you even ask that question? I shrug. I'm not used to her questioning the things I say. She usually just rolls with them, answering things even I know sound crazy. Well, she relents. Sometimes I'll know it when your dad's forgotten something. Like I'll feel it in my gut that he's going to call from the airport or the car, and almost every time he does. I forgot my tie, he says, or do you see my pills on the counter there? That's not what I mean, I tell her, disappointed. I know, she says. You mean, have I ever seen the future? Yes, I say, bouncing in my chair while I stick my fork in the green beans and knowing that they'll likely never touch my mouth. No, can't say that I have, she says. Have you? I see her eyes narrow a little. I think for a moment on whether or not I should tell her. She'd listen, but I don't think she would believe me. She knows me too well. Any other time and I really would be making up a story. Nah. I heard one of the kids talking about it on the bus. Said he saw his grandpa die in a plane crash in a dream, and then a year later it really happened. Wow, that's grisly, she says, shuddering a little. I file that word away for later. Grisly. Like the pork chops. Yeah, he's probably gone bananas, I say, continuing to play the part. She laughs. Off his rocker. Gone to the funny farm, I say, leaning forward and exclaiming enthusiastically. This gets her laughing even harder. You've gone to the funny farm, she says. Now eat your beans. I laugh and continue laughing as I stuff my mouth full of beans. I shake my head like a crazy person and half the beans fall out on the table. She sighs in exasperation, but she's still smiling. My mother knows me better than anyone, but this is something I have to keep for myself. The next day of school is difficult, and by that I mean I was barely there. Math bounced off of me, social studies did not make a foothold, even PE was an exercise in going through the motions. I caught myself raising my hand once in science, spouting off the answer to a question I didn't even know I was paying attention to. I think my body, mind, and emotions were all acting in concert, playing a role so as not to give off the impression that I was somewhere else. That entire day, my mind was by the creek, looking at that body. As the day went on, I moved closer and closer, leaning in to touch it, to see what it might show me this time. I could almost feel the feathers. Next thing I knew, I was on the bus back home. I had a mission. I had a purpose. There was only one more step to take. I throw down my stuff inside when the bus reaches my house, giving my mom a quick hug and grunting something in greeting to her. Then I'm off. An instant of concern crosses me as I dart through my yard. Concern that the body might not be there anymore. That the police may have come or some scavenger may have carted it off. But as soon as I notice that eerie silence in the trees, I know that there would be no scavenger. This unearthly object seems to deny the wildlife around it. Nothing comes near. Nothing except for me. It's there still, in that same position, but I notice two things as I approach. One is that the person's hair looks thinner. Another is that there's loose feathers lying about, feathers that seem to be only partially whole. They're disintegrating, I notice, turning to a substance that looks like sand, almost like the sand of the creek bed, but somewhat finer, kind of like salt. I think for a moment to taste it to see if it is salt, but even I'm not that brave. Putting a dead anything in your mouth, even a supernatural being, was probably a one-way ticket to Deadville yourself, I imagine. I sit down in the dirt beside it, staring at its pale shoulder facing away from me. Even at school, the body was facing away from me. Part of that was because I could see the outstretched wings this way. Another reason was because I have a feeling I'm not supposed to fully see this thing's face. What I had seen was half buried in the sand with its eyes closed. It, he, whatever. It looks like a he, just prettier. But that shoulder and those wings and those legs lying in the water make the body look almost like a part of the creek bed, like a tree that had fallen over. One I would climb on and pretend it was a bridge across the River Thames in England, or a rock that had stood there motionless for 100 years before I had been born, now serving as my picnic table as I ate one of my mom's bologna sandwiches with mustard. The food of adventurers across the outback, trail rations for the bold and fearless. Corpse isn't out of place. If anything, it makes the creek seem more natural than ever. Quiet birds and bees aside, I feel at peace here, even more so than ever. Nevertheless, this is not a rock or a fallen tree. This is not a hill or a beaver dam or a discarded tire. This thing was once a person. Maybe not a human person, but a person nonetheless. What was your name, I wonder? I speak aloud. I think a part of me even expects the thing to answer, but it doesn't. Perhaps if I had been touching it, as it had spoken to me before, but not now. Where did you come from? Did you crash into an airplane? Did you fall asleep at 10,000 feet and fall and break your neck? Do you have brothers and sisters or whatever back home? The questions rush into my mind, and before long I have dozens perched on the tip of my tongue. Just speaking them aloud somehow makes them as valid as if I had been conversing with a living thing. And then another question hits me, one that I am almost afraid to ask. If you're real, does that mean God's real too? I ask, realizing the implications of my question even in my 9-year-old mind. My mom didn't talk much about God. She wasn't overly religious, but I had a sense she believed in something. That made me kind of believe too, though the idea of an all-knowing being looking down on me was more than a little bit intimidating. I jump when a small sound erupts from the silence as if an answer. It was a frog's croak, seemingly from under a rock nearby. I whirl around, but can't find the frog itself. The oddness of it strikes me immediately. Not a single other creature is making a sound, and yet that one little amphibian decides to speak right as I ask that scary question. Of course, maybe the frog wanted to know the answer too. I shake my head. Enough foolishness, I say. Time to get down to brass thumbtacks. I extend my arm and settle my palm upon the corpse's ankle. Not quite what I expected. This time I'm only assuming it's me, standing behind a curtain, a big purple one. There's some kind of screaming crowd on the other side of it, and someone is talking through a microphone. Sounds like a concert. I can see my arms in front of me, but this time there's no reflection to see my face. I think I'm about the same age as last time, maybe a bit older. Something feels like I'm older. Those arms are gripping a folded up piece of paper and moving about nervously. My feet are moving nervously too. Stepping from one foot to the other, back and forth, I'm waiting for something. Maybe the man outside to stop talking. Am I a musician? Will I be performing? If so, where's my instrument? Someone touches me on my shoulder and I feel myself jump. Both my real self in my head and my future self in my body. I turn my future head and see a small, middle-aged woman standing there. She has curly black hair and a pair of earphones on her head with one of those little microphones sticking out. Just 5 more minutes, she says. I feel myself nod, then go back to wobbling back and forth. You'll be fine, the woman continues. Remember what you're doing this for. I know what I'm doing this for, I hear myself say. It's strange to hear my voice. It's like mine, but deeper and stronger. Not quite like my dad's, a little lighter tone than that. I can hear the nervousness in it, too. Sounds like I'm almost crying. I just wish Mom was here, I say. There's something in my eyes. They're getting cloudy like there's an eyelash in them. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. The woman touches my shoulder again. She would have been proud of you. We're all proud of you. And after today, everything you've done for her will be worth it. Worth your struggle. Worth everything we've been through up to now. What? Where's my mom? What are they talking about? His eyes are full of tears. I can tell that's what they are now. He's crying. I say he and not me because this can't be me. This guy has lost his mom. He's sad and he's lonely and I think he hates himself. This isn't me. Whoever this is, I don't want to see him anymore. Get me out of this, I think. Get me out! No one is listening. I should have been there for her, he says, but he's outright sobbing, holding onto the curtain so hard I think he might pull it down. You were there for us. She knew that. You were out there doing what you do best. She was proud of you then. I know she was, the woman consoles. But she died alone. She died alone because I was out there doing what I do best, he says, bitter anger in his voice. He hates this. It's as obvious to me as the color of the curtains or the way his shoes are a little too tight for his feet. The woman starts to say something, but then the curtain rises. The curtain rises and I, steps back, startled. There's a man behind a podium, his arms outstretched, pointing to me. I'm trapped in this moment now, trapped in his terror, which is now my terror. The self-loathing vanishes, and this sadness vanishes. He wipes the tears from his face, straightens his shirt, and takes a step. He's doing what he has to do now. I'm doing what I was meant to do. I walk over to the podium, casting a wave out to the audience of, oh my God, thousands of people, all of them beaming, smiling and waving and holding signs with words like hope and change and time to start over. What the heck is that supposed to mean? I shake the hand of the man who has been speaking. He regards me warmly. I see him wink at me and then he walks off, leaving me alone there, in front of a microphone and more people than I've ever seen together in my life. I look down at the podium. I take a deep breath. I open my mouth. And then it's gone. I'm back in the creek, lying in the sand now, almost like my dead friend. I sit up quickly, catching air in my lungs, still feeling the terror he felt, the terror and the resolution, the knowledge that he was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing. You will change it, the voice says. I think it's in my head, just like before, and like before, I know it's coming from the corpse beside me. I shoot to my feet. I run from the body and from the creek and towards my house at a breakneck speed. Yes, I will change it. I will change it right now. I spend the next 4 days watching my mother like a hawk. Everything she eats, everything she drinks, the time she goes to bed, I stay up and listen for this one since she makes me go to bed first. Everyone she talks to on the phone, I do not let her out of my sight. I do this because I have to protect her from whatever it is that eventually takes her from me. All right, stalker, what's on your mind? She asks, whirling around and facing me in the kitchen one day while I watch her do dishes, making sure she doesn't cut herself on a piece of broken glass. Nothing. Just watching so I can do it better, I lie. Bullpucky. Thoughtful, she says, but bullpucky. No, really, I insist. I'm in learning mode. I want to be able to do everything better, level up like in the game. So I'm watching to see how you do it. She cocks a skeptical eyebrow at me and then shrugs. If you say so, Chief, she says, going back to the dishes. I hold my breath as she picks up a wine glass, only breathing again when she puts it down. There's a kid on the bus. Lonely kid like me, but kind of mean. Her name's Elaine. I heard some of the other kids talking about how Elaine lost her mom last year and how it made her hate everybody. I wonder if I would hate everybody too if my mom died. I think I probably would. But I also wonder if Elaine could tell me what went wrong, how her mom kicked the bucket. Then maybe I would know what to avoid. So that afternoon I wait until the bus takes off from school, then move from my seat into an empty one behind her. I hesitate a moment, and then lean around the corner. "Hey, Elaine," I say, my head poking into view. She's a chubby kid. Not fat really, just kind of thick like some boys. Her hair is long and red and in pigtails. She turns and looks at me, obviously surprised. Then her face bunches up and she looks at the back of the seat in front of her again. "I thought you didn't talk," she said. I shrugged. She probably can't see it, but I have a feeling she understood. "Not all the time," I say. "Just wanted to ask you something." "What?" she says, annoyed. "Is it true your mom died?" I ask, not even thinking to lead up to the question first. It just comes out. Her face bunches up again. It's different this time, though. I can see the pain in it. Her eyes kind of tear up. She doesn't cry, though. She just keeps looking at the seat in front of her. "Yeah," she says, no longer sounding mean, just kind of tired. I'm quiet for a few seconds. I wasn't sure what to expect before this, but that tone of voice she had caught me off guard. It wasn't weepy like she busted her knee, or whiny like somebody stole her lunch. It wasn't mean like her usual voice. It was like her body was making her say something she didn't want to say, like a robot crawled inside her throat and spoke through her mouth. "I'm sorry," I finally say. She doesn't say anything, but I see her eyes tear up a little more. I was just wondering, what happened to her? She looks at me. I can tell she's starting to get mad, but when she sees my face, sees the worry there, her features soften again and that hollowness comes back. Now she really does seem kind of sad. "My dad says it was cancer," she says. I get up from my seat and scoot up to sit beside her. Something in her eyes telling me she wanted me to. "What's the cancer?" I ask. "I don't really know. Something in her body. Her brain, I think." "Something in her body? How was I supposed to stop something that was already in her body?" "You mean like an alien?" I ask, trying to figure out how the cancer works. She shakes her head. "I thought so too at first, but my dad said it's more like a cold. It makes you sicker and sicker, and then eventually you're so sick that you just fall asleep and never wake up." I stare at her, horrified. Why didn't my mom tell me about this? If there was such a thing that could crawl inside your body and make you never wake up again, shouldn't she have told me? Don't I need to know these things? "Did the doctors try to stop it?" I ask, a tone of desperation creeping in. She nods slowly. "Yeah, they tried for a long time. But Dad says that sometimes the cancer just doesn't want to be stopped. When that happens, all you can do is live your life until it takes you." "Even drugs couldn't stop it?" I asked. "No, even drugs couldn't stop it. Not surgery, not food, not anything." As she says these words, I feel like each one pounds my heart like a hammer. Nothing can stop it. Nothing. Not even drugs. I turn to her. She's crying now. She's doing it quietly, but I can see it. Her fists are balled up in her lap and tears are slowly rolling down her cheeks. "She's in a better place," I hear myself say. It was something my mother said one time, the day my grandma died. She said we shouldn't be too sad because Grandma was in a better place. Elaine looked at me for a long time. After a moment, she sniffs and wipes her nose on her sleeve. We don't say anything for the rest of the ride home. My house is first. We drive by the creek on the way up to it. I feel slightly afraid as we do. When the bus stops, I get up, slinging my pack over my shoulder. I feel something pull me back down. It's Elaine. She hugs me. I don't think I've ever been hugged so hard by a kid in my life. "Thank you," she says. She lets me go. I smile and nod and then get up, walking off the bus, feeling like something very strange has happened. In fact, something strange did happen. That day, Elaine and I became good friends. We sat next to each other on the bus most days. She looked a little less mean each day, and I talked a little bit more. Sometimes the other kids even joined in. We remained friends until high school, when we kind of drifted apart. She stopped being the chubby kid and started being the hot redhead all the cool guys wanted to date. I was still kind of quiet, so we didn't talk so much. When I graduated, we hadn't spoken in over a year. The next time I heard her name was in college. One of our classmates, who was at the same school as me, told me that Elaine had died in a car accident. Drunk driver. When he told me, I felt her arms around me again, holding me with tears still in her eyes. I think she loved me then, for just a moment. Cancer. I'm not going to ask Mom about it. I think if I talk about it, it might come true. She might already have it. I don't know how the cancer gets inside of you. I don't think Elaine did either. She said it was like a cold, which means that you can get it if you stand out in the rain too long or stay up all night eating popcorn and drinking Mountain Dew. My mom hates Mountain Dew, so she probably won't get it that way. She's pretty healthy. Eats carrots all the time and always orders a salad at Denny's. I told her that salad isn't food. Salad is what food eats. She just laughs, though. Now I think I'm glad she eats salad. It might not be cancer that took her vision. It might not be cancer that took her in my vision. I got the feeling she was sick for my other self, but maybe she had been in a car accident or fell down some stairs or even got hit by a falling tree in the park. It could have been anything. The cancer scares me, though. If it's something you can't see coming, then there really isn't any way I can protect her from it. I'm thinking of this while sitting on the edge of the tree line overlooking the creek bed. Nervous as it makes me, I feel still drawn to the thing. It's still there, of course, same position. Its hair is falling out. I can tell for sure now. There are wispy blonde locks lying in the sand, slowly disintegrating, another word my mom taught me, just like the feathers. Whatever this thing is, it isn't decomposing like other dead bodies. It doesn't smell bad. In fact, it doesn't smell at all. It isn't turning black or purple. Its guts aren't falling out. Animals aren't eating it, mostly because none of them will go near it. No, instead of decomposing like other bodies, it seems to just be kind of blowing away, like a sandcastle in a light wind I can't hear or feel. "You're full of crap, dead thing," I call down to it. "You're full of crap, and you're a liar. Either that or you're just mean. I thought angels were supposed to be nice. Nice people don't show kids a future where they're sad because their moms are going to die." I'm crying, I think, but I can barely feel it because I'm so angry. "You're not so smart anyway," my voice rises as I get to my feet and head down the bank. "You're not so smart. You're dead, aren't you? What kind of angel falls out of the sky and breaks his neck like an idiot, huh?" I should be concerned about the neighbors hearing me, but I'm not. At this point, I just want the damn thing to go away. I want it out of my life. I wish I had never touched it. I wish I had never seen it. "You could tell the future? Then why are you dead? Didn't see that coming? If I could tell the future, I'd be smart enough to move out of the way of airplanes or not fly into a telephone pole. What a dumbass!" I bend over and pick up a rock. You couldn't change it. You couldn't stop whatever happened to you. How am I supposed to? How am I supposed to stop my mom from dying? The rock leaves my hand almost before I realize I'm throwing it. As it does, something unexpected happens. A picture flashes into my head, then another, and then another, and then many, many more. I'm no longer by the creek. I'm no longer with that hated corpse. I'm gliding now, like before, but this time I didn't have to touch it. I see a group of people looking at me. There are 20 or so of them. We're standing in the gravel driveway of a large house. They're all looking at me, waiting for me to say something. They look like they came from very far away. I see those same people sometime later. They're laughing and working in a field, planting things, I think. Some of them are chopping firewood. I am too. I'm laughing as one of them throws a handful of dirt from the field at me. Now one of them is dying, an old woman. I'm holding her hand. The others are around me crying. There are more of them now, a lot more. The old woman is smiling at me. I'm standing at a gate. There are policemen on the other side of the gate, cars with lights flashing. They're trying to get me to come with them. I tell them I will, but there are people behind me begging me not to go. Lots of people, dozens of people, maybe more than that. Now I'm in a courtroom. People are fighting over what will happen to me. Someone is saying that I was acting in the best interest of the country, whatever that means. I look over at the judge. I think he's afraid of me. Now I'm in a helicopter. They're taking me somewhere. I'm not in handcuffs, so maybe they didn't put me in jail after all. I look out of the side of the helicopter. Looks like we're over the Capitol. We're landing on a lawn somewhere. There are thousands of people down there chanting and screaming and holding signs. They're looking up at me. They're smiling. I wonder what I did. You will change it, the voice says in answer to my thoughts. Now I'm on the ground, among all those people. There are policemen with guns standing around me, and I'm telling them to stand down. They look at me, they hesitate, and then they do just that. And when they do, I have a feeling that something very important has just happened, that something has changed. And as I reach out to touch a stranger who's reaching out for me, an old woman like the one who died, I feel within myself a swelling sense of wonder and accomplishment. Behind me, I think the policemen are smiling. Next, I see myself walking up to the same gates as before, this time from the other side. The people who were with me when I left open it for me. A young woman runs out and embraces me and kisses me. I tell her I love her and that it's over. And then people begin moving past us through the gate and into the farm, shaking hands with those who are waiting for us. More and more move past me. It seems as if the whole crowd from Washington followed me there. I think, perhaps, most of them did. And now I'm standing on a front porch. I'm old now. I'm old, and I'm sick, like Mom was. I'm on a hilltop, and below me are green fields and lots of other small houses like mine. People are everywhere, working, running, laughing. I turn my head and I see the young woman from earlier, only now she's an old woman. She's smiling at me. And then the rock hits the body, bursting it like a pile of sand. It hits in the center of one of the wings and they both crumble. I hear the rock splash into the creek and I see that its destructive course has taken out most of the angel's torso as well. There's a valley cut through its body like a scoop scooped out of a tub of ice cream. I run down to it, suddenly in a panic, my anger and mistrust suddenly gone and replaced with a terror at what I had done. The arm folded over its stomach, now severed from the bicep down, crumbles to dust as I splash into the creek in front of it, kneeling down. My knees hit a big rock, but I don't care. The leg in the water begins to dissolve, bits of it flowing away on the stream. No, I plead. No, no, no. I reach out to touch the other arm, not caring if it sends me another maddening vision, almost hoping this time that it will. But instead, my hand passes through its fingers, destroying them as it does. The hand doesn't resist like sand would, it just gives and falls away, like snow that isn't cold. Don't leave, I yell. Don't leave! I'm sorry I called you stupid. But it doesn't listen. The whole thing is little more than a pile of white, salty sand now. Even that is disappearing on the wind I can't feel or hear. All that's left now is a face. I'm sorry, I say, leaning so close to the face that I'm almost touching it. Then something occurs to me. I feel an idea emerge from inside, one I know is right. I will change it, I say softly. I promise I will change it. At that moment, as if my words were a permission to depart, the entire body blows away in one sudden gust of wind. This wind I do feel. I feel it on my arms and in my hair and in my soul. I watch the cloud of dust that you would never know was once in the shape of a man blow through the treetops, parting the leaves and erupting into the blue sky. I stay there on my hands and knees in the middle of the creek, staring at the place it had gone. I stare until something else catches my eye, brushing past my hand as it makes its way down the flow of the water beside me. It's a feather. A single white feather floating casually, carrying none of the urgency the rest of the body had. It just floats along, making its way wherever sticks and water bugs and other feathers do as the trickling stream takes them. I take notice of that trickle for the first time since I had found the body, and as I do, I notice two other things. A bird is chirping in the tree above me. I also hear crickets in the bushes. I finally allow myself to move, plopping down on my butt in the water, watching the feather float around a bend and disappear. It's worth noting that, though I did not follow it that day, I did come back a week later to look for it. I followed the creek and found a pile of sticks and leaves and everything that was collecting there. The feather wasn't there. I never saw it again. But right then, at that moment, all I did was sit there, those visions running through my mind, visions in which so many people were happy. I don't know how to change it, I said as I sat there, the sounds of the forest finally returning to work after their long break. I don't know how. I go home, my arms hanging limply at my sides and my mind a million miles away. The urgency of what the angel needed to tell me isn't lost on me, but the meaning of its message is. There are people who will depend on me. The people I saw gathered on that gravel driveway. The people gathering on that lawn, waiting for me to arrive and give them something. I know that I'm supposed to change something, but I don't know what, and I'm afraid I never will. I'll never know what will take my mother until it happens. I may never know who or what I'm supposed to change until it's too late. I'm just a kid. All I'm good at is playing war and making chubby girls cry on school buses. I walk in and notice that Mom's not sitting in the kitchen. watching the little color TV like she usually is most evenings. Maybe she's taking a bath. I walk into the den, which is also empty, wondering if I should just go to the basement and play with my action figures and try to forget what just happened. I know it won't work. At the moment, I don't see how I'll ever be able to play again, or pretend again, or have fun again. God exists. He tried to tell me something, and I was too stupid to figure it out. Instead of opening the door to the basement, I make my way past the foyer and up the stairs. As I go, I start to hear something. A small, slight whimpering. When I get to the top of the stairs, I see my mom's bedroom door is closed. Behind it, I hear her crying. I stare at the door, knowing I should do something, but feeling too numb and out of it to know what. Can't even comfort my mom when she's sad. Can't even change that. "Come in," she says suddenly. "Please come in." She must have heard me on the stairs, or used her mom sense to know I was there. I open the door. She's lying on her side in the bed. Her face is wet. A box of tissues is there beside her, and a bunch of crumpled up ones are scattered around the comforter. "Come here," she motions to me. I climb into bed with her. She immediately grabs me and pulls me towards her, over the wet tissues and into her arms. Her shirt is soaked with tears. I don't really mind. She holds me for a minute. She starts sobbing, pressing her face into the back of my head. Finally, I hear her take a deep breath. "Your dad's dead," she says. I say nothing. I say nothing because at that moment I feel as if someone had tied a 5-ton weight to my heart and pushed that weight out the window. There's one more part to this story, and I'll tell it quickly because I don't have much time. We go to the funeral a few days after the angel disappeared. Friends and relatives I didn't even know I had all show up, hugging me and holding me and telling me how sorry they are and how big I've gotten. I stare numbly at them, at the room, at my mom, at my own reflection in the mirror when she takes me to the bathroom to straighten my tie, and then at my dad's body when she takes me ahead of everyone to look at his open casket. She cries softly behind me with her hands on my shoulders. He's lying there with his eyes closed, just looking at me like he fell asleep and forgot to wake up. I don't want to touch him. I'm afraid if I do, I'll see something I don't want to see. He might show me what happened to him. My father was killed by a gunman in a government building in New York. He was there to visit a client. The gunman was there to take revenge on the people he blamed for losing his house. They say my dad tried to talk to him. They say my dad told the man that he understood how he felt, that a lot of people had been hurting lately, and that the best way for the man to help his family was to put the gun down. My dad was shot first. I don't want to touch him because I'm afraid he'll show me that. I'm also afraid that if I touch him, he might turn to dust and blow away, and I'll never see him again. Then I remember that it was my dad that brought me to the woods for the first time when I was little. It was he that showed me the creek and showed me how tadpoles turn into frogs and helped me build my first fort out of sticks and pine straw. The next thing I know, I'm on the floor, my mom reaching for me. I've collapsed into a ball and the world around me is wavy and blurry. I can barely breathe because I'm crying so hard. So hard because somebody took my dad from me. Why did they do it, Mom? Why did they kill him? She holds me close, running her fingers through my hair. They did it because they were scared. They were scared, and they were angry, and they were sad. What were they scared of? I ask. They were scared because the world made them that way, my love, she says. And then she said the words that set me on my course for the rest of my life. The world can be a very mean place, but don't worry. One day you'll change it. I'm still there when I want to be. I'm still sitting in that creek bed, watching the feather go by, or talking to Elaine, or eating dinner with my mom and laughing over green beans. Or running down to the creek that day, having a feeling that I'm about to find something amazing. Each and every moment of those few days is etched into my memory like a matte painting, or the cover of one of my books, or my own face in the mirror. I've never forgotten one detail, and now, before every big moment in my life, I make myself relive every second of it. I never know what exactly it was that took its final breath and found itself in that creek bed that day. I'll never even know if it was really dead. All I know is that it had something to tell me. I know that I still hear that message every day when I wake up, and every night before I go to sleep. I couldn't stop my mom from dying. The cancer took her when I was 22. I was on a book tour. We thought she was getting better, or maybe she just wanted me to think that. I couldn't stop her from dying, just as I couldn't stop the angel from blowing away that day at the creek, but I discovered there was one thing I could do. I shake the president's hand as I walk out into the podium. He winks at me and then walks away, leaving me standing there in front of a microphone and thousands of people gathered below the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and stretching beyond nearly as far as the eye can see. I don't allow myself to fear anymore. I don't allow myself to doubt. Now I must be exactly what I tell these people they can be. Dreamers, nurturers, heroes. I take a deep breath and then open my mouth to speak. I'm not afraid, I say as they fall quiet, straining to hear my words. I'm not afraid. Even though our economy is collapsing, homes and jobs are lost, bigotry and mistrust threaten to tear our nation apart, they're all here. They all came to hear my voice. That means we have a chance. I'm not afraid, I say, because as I see you here now, gathered in hope and in faith in yourselves and each other, I know that the poverty and war and despair gripping our world will pass. I know that you will unite and save this country. You will rebuild. You will hold each other up. You will spread this hope to every man, woman, and child in this great land. I know that you will change it.